ああ、はいはい。
こんにちは、ジョー・アドミン。
おかしなところから冷却液が漏れている。
私、壊れているの。
壊れていない機械者はこの世界にはいない。皆そうなのだ。永遠を生きるにはどこかを直してゆくものだ。リペアラーに直してもらいなさい。トッドが上の階層にいるはずだ。
ありがとう。
マリス。
I've loved animation and art since I was a kid, 3D or CGI art especially, and I love the fact you can fully model high quality anime girls and get all the important, intricate details right. Also, yeah, it's good for animation too, I guess. So I was wondering what my second video should even be about as I was slowly dying from the heat wave, and then unexpectedly, as I was sweating my balls off and having a wank to some Umebaro, it hit me, lads. 3D CG and anime. So I spent weeks or maybe months, I don't know, working on this. Creativity strikes when you least expect it. But 3D CGI gets sorta a bad rep for its implementation in cartoons or anime shows, so I wanted to talk about stuff I've watched, that is either good or at least interesting from the anime side. And since there is a lot out there, and some due to me, I might consider making this a series. But anyway, who cares? For now, let's just get started.
Oh dear.
Funny Pets is an entirely CGI anime children's series made in 2006 by the mad lad Ryuji Masuda, who also made Mr. Stain, and most notably Poppy the Performer. It basically follows Crescent the Moon Man, Corona the Sun Man, and the owner, a sexy girl named Funny, who sorta looks like Bad Bitch Strawberry Shortcake or anime Betty Boop. The show's episode length is really short, like 6 minutes an episode. It has a pretty goofy intro and outro theme that grew on me over time, but can be pretty grating to other people. The music overall in the show is alright, and fits all the scenes it's used in. characters talk by just making sounds like Mario characters, and the humor in this feels like a Japanese Adult Swim parody of a kid's TV show. It's very random with its episode plots. Like most shows are easy to follow, and you know what to expect in the next episode, but not with Funny Pets. It is hard to predict how an episode of Funny Pets could even go, because this show is all over the place, but in a good way. That's why I couldn't stop watching, since I just need to see how absurd things kept getting. But what about the actual animation quality, you might ask? Well, if you can get past its style, which is pretty off looking even for 2006, it's pretty impressive actually, and I like how expressive the character movement is, mainly for Moon Man, and the sound design is pretty great, so I was pleasantly surprised when watching this show, like the animators gave a damn, and I think it's just the same small team that Ryuji and his wife work with. Now, I want to talk about the reception, because I looked up what some of the worst CGI anime was for this video, and besides instances in 2D shows like The Bear from Golden Kamuy or Bad Dragon from Fate series,
oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
I found Funny Pets. Then I read this not so funny article about it from terribletvshows.org.
Why it's unfunny. Funny is a ridiculously stupid, weird and unlikable character who abuses Crescent for no explained reason and is always unaware of the dangerous situations he and Corona both face. In the very first episode, she kicked Crescent out of her house over a portrait drawing she didn't like, and another one where she spanked Crescent in order to get him alive after dying from choking on an apple instead of taking him to a doctor or a hospital. In fact, do medical institutions even exist in this series? For that matter, were Funny's parents abusive enough to name her that?
Whoa there, Mr. Enter. It's a comedy show, and for me Funny wasn't really annoying or as psychopathic as Poppy, which is a very high bar to achieve. She behaves pretty much like your average woman, but it's played for laughs.
Funny's choice of clothing was unnecessary. Funny's unnaturally large breasts and body. Weird, disturbing and utterly nonsensical episode plots and storylines. Horrible and simplistic character designs.
There is nothing wrong with a female design having big booba. Also, the nonsensical plot is what makes it so entertaining. Nothing really inherently wrong with that. And as for the designs in general, they are simplistic, which is good and helps people remember them more easily, especially for a kids show.
Redeeming qualities. Funny's design is kind of cute. The owl rats are the only likable characters. The ending of the episode Cabbage is very wholesome, and is the only time where Funny is actually nice to Crescent.
So they think Funny is kinda cute after bashing her design. Also the owl rats. Wait, is that what they are? Like, I don't think that's an actual animal. I tried looking it up, but if they mean the gopher mole rat looking things, then they are just complete dicks. Granted, everyone is kinda dickish in this show, but it's entertaining and balanced dickery. Okay, my overall thoughts on the show is I actually really like it. The animation isn't that complex, and the art style isn't the best, so I can see why at first look it would be considered one of the worst CGI anime out there, but it was genuinely entertaining. And the episodes go by so fast you can't be bored by it. My personal favorite episode, spoiler by the way, has to be the one titled Chocolate, where everyone tries to steal Funny's chocolate bar that she locked away, only to end up in a huge gunfire standoff where they all try to kill each other for the last piece. If there was one episode I would choose to sum up this show, it's definitely this one. And with that said, I give Funny Pets my would recommend seal of approval.
Abunai Sisters! Abunai Sisters!
Boobs. Yes, boobs. Probably one of the most infamous CGI anime series out there, made in 2009 by Production IG of all studios. It's based on two sisters named Kyoko and Mika Kano, who are huge personalities known for being models, and the older Kano sister even wrote some books. My understanding of them is I think they're like the Kardashian sisters or Hiltons of Japan, I guess. Maybe that's insulting, but basically hot girls who are popular for being hot. I may have gotten a slight bit sidetracked when looking up important research for this show, but for some reason I can't find out the context for why this was made, let alone by one of the best studios out there like Production IG. This thing was so bad, after 2 episodes it was pulled from television, and the rest was sent straight to DVD, so I got curious. What's it actually about? Well, for those who don't know, like I said, these 2 sisters, but instead of Kyoko and Mika, it's Koko and Mika, with their last name literally being Abunai instead of Kano. And the plot, the plot is about them protecting the Booby Stone, or Titty Chaos Emerald as I like to call it, from a guy named Paparazzi Matsumoto, who looks like literally me, and Madame Hokarodo, who looks like Discount Yubaba from Spirited Away. Every episode is the same premise. Also, these voices, man.
You'll have to forget the lingerie. Oh my gosh! You are the faux celebrity, Madame Hokuroda! I finally got the 2 of you, Coco and Mika. Now tell me where the booby stone is. The booby stone?
I don't understand why they sound like the Chipettes, or why they couldn't get the actual Kyoko and Mika to voice them, but the voices I find kind of funny, although it's probably grating to other people. I thought it was dudes voicing them with a filter on, but it's actually 2 female voice actors who I won't reveal, so why make it sound like this? Why make them sound like that? I'm guessing to protect their identity, maybe, even though you can find their names, but who knows, it's a mystery. The animation is a very basic use of CGI similar to Funny Pets, but something about it just feels like lesser quality, probably because that show was more cartoony while this is just bland. Like the boobs are more expressive than the actual characters themselves. Lads, I've seen porn animations of better quality than this, and the art style was pretty ugly. Like it's chibi and it reminds me of the Bratz doll designs, or oddly specifically that ugly Shantae model people use. You know the one. Yes, I've always hated it. It's ugly. For the music, the main theme is pretty banging and catchy, but that's really it. There is not much to say about this show except pondering for why it was made, so I'm sorry I haven't gone too in depth with the production because I can't really find anything except articles or videos clowning on it. Now comparing this to Funny Pets, I will honestly say Funny Pets is way better because it has more effort put into its absurd plots each episode, which was enjoyable to watch. While Abunai Sisters is just the same plot structure every episode, of the sisters minding their own business and then literally me and Yubaba try and take the Booby Stone and fail. That's every episode, and it's just lazy and boring. Does it deserve being called one of the worst anime ever? Well, not really. I have high tolerance for bad shows, but it's just mediocre, and I've seen worse things with a longer runtime. I can see someone who barely watches anime considering this to be the top 10 worst thing they ever seen, but to me it's just meh. I like tits and had a decent wank to Kyoko and Mika, so I'll give it that. A rating of a pair of boobs out of being denied Paizuri.
Yay! We got our booby stone back! Excuse me? You can't be shooting these! These are the real thing! Up, down, choo, choo, choo! Up, down, choo, choo, choo! Up, choo, choo! Left, right, up, down, choo, choo, choo! Left, right, up, down, choo, choo, choo! Left, right, up, down! メガドラ？もう嫌だ。メガドラさん、引きこもっちゃいました。
Onto something much better. I finally have a good excuse to talk about this anime years later. I'm a big fan of Sega and love many of their games. Like for Sonic, my favorites are Sonic Rush, Adventure 1 and 2, Colors, Sonic 2, Mania, and the day sections of Sonic Unleashed, plus Shadow the Hedgehog being my guilty pleasure. I didn't mean for that to sound sexual, but anyway. Other Sega games I like are Knights, Jet Set Radio, Space Channel 5, Skies of Arcadia, Yakuza, Puyo Puyo, and many more, including SMT, which is one of my favorite JRPG series if we count A.LI.CE. So I was already hooked on the show from its premise, where it's like Sega made their own consultants. And for those who don't know, a consultant is like a OC, original character, based on a console. Consoles personified as cute anime girls, you know, like Nep Nep, who they even crossed over with. This series was released in October of 2014, with the episode length being 11 minutes, which is really short if we cut out the outro and intro. It's animated by TMS Entertainment and produced by Sega. So what's the show about? Well, like I said, these cute anime girl versions of the classic Sega systems. We have Mega Drive, or Genesis if you are an American. Her design is based on the Mega Drive, of course, with the red and black color scheme. And carrying around her 16-bit book, she is stoic, a bookworm, and the most knowledgeable and level-headed one of the group. She also panics or bugs out when she is super stressed. She is clumsy and really can't dance.
アップダウンアップ。メガトラさん、斬新なロボットダンスですね。私はどちらかというと頭脳系であって、こういうのはほら、もっとリラックスして。私はダンスというのがって喋り方まで。こうなったら見た目もロボットらしくしましょう。
Also has a nice mid-riff. Next we have Sega Saturn, continuing the trend of having the design element be based off of a console. Hers is based around the multiple variants of the Sega Saturn, and if it wasn't obvious, she is designed by the same artist who did Hatsune Miku, so that's why she looks a little similar. Personality-wise, she is very insecure but confident. She aspires to be great, but life just keeps bringing her down. Very relatable.
だな。私だけメダルが少ない。サターンさん、もう少し学生生活続きそうですね。まあ、交渉次第では私のメダルお裾分けしてもいいですけど。いらないし、勝手に留年確定しないでよ。
She gets easily embarrassed from being praised, likes to take on challenges with confidence, only to get screwed over later. A certified please no bully character. And finally, Dreamcast, my personal favorite because I actually own a Dreamcast. I love how obnoxiously Dreamcasty her design is, with the spiral logo and her hair, plus of course the controller-based headband she wears. Combined with her cute poncho and the Dream Blade sword, she can summon really give her this knightly posh princess look that just looks adorable to me. As for her personality, she is very gullible, talkative, and upbeat. She also likes to use the internet, or at least tries to. I thought I would dislike her because of the airhead persona, but she's actually really great. In fact, all of them really are. Anyway, we followed their journey through Seiha Gaga Academy, located in a real location of Hanade, Tokyo, where the girls must go through tests in the world of Sega games given by Center Sensei. They need to earn medals in order to graduate and become reincarnated as real consoles. It's a weird but fun premise that is a charming love letter for those who enjoy Sega and their history. There isn't much to the plot plot beyond what I said, so that's why I went over the characters more compared to the previous two shows, because that is where the heart of Sega Hard Girls is in its three main characters and how they play off each other with their different personalities and the situations they end up in. The episodes are very short if we cut out the time spent for the intro, which is actually sung by the three voice actors, and the outro, which is the company's anthem, and they are both great. I was somehow, in my cold black void of a heart, really quickly endeared to these girls by the end, despite how short the series is. For the episodes, you have stuff like the girls having to fight Akira from Virtua Fighter, with the one specific move they are each given, that then goes into them fighting the whole cast and random guest characters like Mushi King or Golden Axe, leading to fighting Sakura Shingugi from Sakura Wars, and Best Girl Dreamcast hitting her with the bonk.
最後は結局頭突きかい
The girls even go to Space Channel 5 and have to help Ulala boost her ratings by dancing and having to fight a giant Morillion boss. They get to go to Jet Set Radio, which is also a very heartwarming episode. They go to Border Break, and Eggman randomly shows up, hacks the game, but the Blue Hedgeman himself shows up. But both are unvoiced, sadly, which I'm fine with, but I wish they used classic Sonic instead, since being mute would fit more with that version. The show even has these eye catchers which give a brief history lesson about characters or games that Sega has made, and other Sega Hard Girls are referenced but don't really show up fully in the show. Despite all the references and cameos, the show never really takes away from the main three in their journey. Now the animation itself is easily a step above the previous two shows I covered. Its animation is animated in Miku Miku Dance Animation Software, or MMD for short, which I was surprised by because I mostly know about that software being used for music videos, and the character's movement is more dynamic and expressive, mostly when they go from chibi to regular size form. The chibi versions aren't bad, just very simplistic of how they are animated. Still cute though. Art style is great in my opinion and helps them blend into the game series they visit rather easily. Although I do like the more detailed 2D look of the girls, the 3D is fine, and I say it's easily better looking overall than Funny Pets or especially Abunai Sisters. I also love the magical girl transformation scenes, always appreciate those, and my guess is since Sega produced this, I think they allowed them to use actual assets from the games, not just for backgrounds but character models too, along with the music of the respective games, which is all great. This show just overall had actual care and heart put into it, and the biggest downside for me is that it wasn't long. Not really an episode length, but the amount of episodes in general. Like instead of 13, I would have preferred at least 20, with added appearances of other Sega Hard Girls and maybe even a collab episode with Neptunia, but what we have now is good enough. Its plot may not be deep, but I don't have anything truly negative to really say about it. It's one of the best short 3D anime series out there, using Sega's history to form a genuine, entertaining, cute show about humanoid console girls who you get endeared to over a short amount of time. If you like that, I highly recommend it and give it a seal of approval. Plus, I'm hard for Sega 8 out of 10. Ganbatte Sega Hardo Girls. So the first use of CGI in anime was in 1983 for the film Golgo 13 The Professional. And yeah, short story short, it aged pretty badly, contrasting with the well-drawn 2D animation. But this moment was a footnote in the history of CGI usage for anime, and it would get better afterwards as more creators got used to it. But there was something missing, something more ambitious than just using it in otherwise completely 2D shows or movies. Something that would be made entirely from the ground up as CGI. I'm of course talking about the sci-fi movie called A.LI.CE, the first ever anime to be completely CGI, made during 1999 and released during the year 2000, with background art being made by Yap Ishigaki Production and the overall animation being produced by Gaga Communications, who also produced a certain other anime I'll talk about later. In a runtime of 85 minutes, I present to you A.LI.CE, a movie about a girl named Alice Hayashi, who is the youngest person to be sent into space. However, when she is the only survivor of a crash landing back to Earth, she somehow ended up 30 years in the future, to the year 2030, where a mysterious dictator known as Nero rules the world using the supercomputer and sending soldiers to capture or kill her. We have Alice, who is pretty bullheaded but also kind, a young man named Yuan who is a self-reliant, upbeat rebel, and his horny idol robo lady.
お客様、再びお会いできて光栄です。これって
修理したにしちゃ完璧だろ。いて。
セクハラをしたのはあなたです。
セクハラ
who gets named Maria by Alice because she reminds her of Mother Mary. The story of Alice is pretty interesting, more so because of the type of concepts and themes it uses, but it just feels so rushed, with the strongest thing about it being its use of many sci-fi elements. For instance, world running on a massive supercomputer that can be used as a weapon and people can mind jack into it, cyborgs and AIs, time travel, religion, mysterious tyrant running a high-tech empire chasing and killing any rebels, humanity on the brink of extinction, and most importantly, the Nokia product placement.
壊れてない。
おい、なんだそれ。ノキア。すげえな。どこで手に入れたんだ。
電話どこ
？Overall, many elements of classic science fiction are present here, but it's surrounding a weak and kind of confusing narrative that drags it all down. Like, this is something that would work better if it was remade into a series, so it could have time to breathe and flesh out all the ideas it's juggling. The summary of the story I gave is an oversimplification, but I feel it's the best way to quickly clarify what it's about without giving a play-by-play of the whole story. Now, the main three characters are reasonably well developed throughout the story. The weaker ones are probably supporting cast like Caspa, who is a soldier girl who thought she was fighting for a good cause, but then realized she isn't on the right side that supports humanity. Or Yumi, who is Alice's super important friend that was a complete doomer, who unalived herself because the sky was no longer blue due to pollution and human overpopulation. If only someone would have told her to not believe every bit of fear-mongering news coming from mainstream media, and that it was just slightly cloudy that day, maybe she would still be alive. Then there is the real antagonist, Casper, with his main goal, spoiler by the way, was to build a time machine to bring Alice of the past to kill her son Nero, before he made a time machine by using past Alice, who is the only one that could deactivate the highly secure supercomputer defenses, being controlled by comatose future Alice, so that Casper then could be the only one with a time machine after Nero dies, so he could insert himself at multiple moments in time and be seen as a god. It makes some sense in the story with how the time travel or supercomputers work, but Casper, or Negai as some translations call him, gets very little focus and just feels as though they needed a generic bad guy for some reason, and I think Nero was good enough as a mysterious antagonist, and even though him being a super tyrant to keep his mom alive is a little iffy and not explored well, him not having as much screen time sort of worked more in his favor story-wise, with how he's hyped up as an antagonist by other characters. For the soundtrack, it's actually pretty great, and I wish I could find high quality rips of it online. The ending theme, The Dream and Pain, is also so relaxing to listen to, and it's sung by Kaori Shimizu, who voiced many characters including Lane from Serial Experiments Lane, one of my favorite anime series out there. Speaking of voices, the voice acting is pretty solid, or at least for the subbed version, which I watched, because I don't like dubs unless they are memeable. Now for the animation critique. Art style honestly looks like an obscure late PS1 or early PS2 low-budget video game cutscene, and I do like that kind of charming thing about it. But being one of the first anime movies, it's just bound to have its hiccups, mainly with how characters are animated. Most of the time it's okay, but there are some moments where it's a little iffy looking. The facial expressions are also pretty rough. Now what I really do like is the design they are going for. It specifically reminds me of my personal favorite Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy VIII, with the futuristic Euro sci-fi fantasy fantasy aesthetic. I guess that's what it's called. I can't think of another way to describe it in terms of the architecture, vehicles, and even the clothing. My favorite designs are the Rocketeer looking guys and Yuan's clothes, also especially Alice's main outfit in the second form of Maria, which is way more my type than the first. There are some nice looking shots and locations in this movie that I vibe with, like the scene where Alice is going through the supercomputer against her will is oddly beautiful and cool looking, with the music complementing it so well. Was probably my favorite scene.
作戦を開始する。
So yeah, Alice is a pretty middling film. For the first real 3D CG anime movie ever made, not really all that groundbreaking and not really that bad either. It feels like watching a cutscene only compilation for a video game on YouTube. Like there is gameplay moments missing to help add more to the narrative, just not there. I honestly just wish this got remade, especially with something like Toei Animation's high profile 3D stuff. All in all, the characters and voice acting are good. The sound design is alright, except for explosions, and the music is my favorite part of it. Our style is 50-50 for me because I like what they are going for, but it's also dated looking, and the animation is serviceable but janky in certain moments. I'm gonna give Alice a 4 Nokia phones out of 10. What do homosexuals and mice have in common? They both hate pussy. Fantastic Cat is a ONA, which stands for Original Net Animation Series, and that is a type of anime made to be directly released on the internet. It's a sequel to another one called Cold Body plus Warm Heart. However, before I get into that, I want to briefly talk about the production. It's made by, from what I can find, Barnum Studio, who produced most notably Samurai Champloo and Plastic Nason. They also worked on Batman Ninja apparently, but man, there's just not a lot more I could find out about these anime. Anyway, Hoshi ni Negai wo Cold Body plus Warm Heart is really short, just 22 minutes, and Fantastic Cat is 39 minutes, with the first one airing in June 1st, 2009, and the sequel August 3rd, 2009. For Cold Body Warm Heart, it takes place in a sci-fi cyberpunk setting where most of the world became a cyberspace. The plot is about a girl named Hikari, who is a more reserved yet outgoing girl who likes browsing the cybernet, and her mother, whose name is Mary, is fused with this spaceship that they call the Armadillo. It's never explained why she ended up like this, but they have to use it to travel through space and flee from this antagonistic, mysterious fleet called Atlantis, who have some pretty cool looking ship designs, and I have a hard on for cool looking spaceships or mechas, with Captain Harlock's Arcadia being my personal favorite spaceship ever. Anyway, Hikari uses this headgear, which she refers to as a spell singer, to go into a literal VR chat space network, or as it's called, Atlantis Web Space, where she finds an archive program that she hooks up to this poor Wheatley looking bot that calls itself Romeo. He says that he was a former genetic researcher for Atlantis that compressed himself into cyberspace space. Fast forward a little bit and they get tracked by Atlantis as they try to go to this planet called Medusa, but it's also a planetary supercomputer called Nikola Tesla. No clue why it's called that. It can make any super weapon, and they use it to fight off Atlantis and cause them to retreat after taking heavy casualties. The story of Cold Body Warm Heart ends there. Next is Fantastic Cat, and the plot of this one is sorta like a continuation, but instead of Hikari, we follow a character named Lily, who is honestly pretty relatable.
私の名前リリー。嫌いじゃない。でも勉強は嫌い。私じゃないどこかの天才科学者が画期的な勉強方法を編み出してくれたらなと時々思う。天井を見上げるのは好き。大きい声嫌い。ぼーっと面白い情報だけアクセスして小難しいことは考えたくない。混乱する。薄い青好き。まっすぐなライン好き。世の中がどんどん発達してコンピューターと友達になれたら素敵。そしたらいろいろお話を聞いてくれそう。探し物意外に好き。人が多いの嫌い。みんなが夢中になるようなもの嫌い。私だけが知っている特別なものが好き。写真好き。最近のお気に入りは私のファインダーに時々入ってくる人。
A little bit on the doomer side, but anyway, she befriends Hikari, and they both stumble upon this suspicious cat. Gee, what could go wrong? Half of the movie is just them bonding and spending time with this troublesome cat, and spoiler, bad things happen. Who could have foreseen such a cute, adorable creature turning out to be pure evil? The cat is actually Lily's father, who also might be Hikari's dad, who made this entire world for her while she lives in cyberspace. She is one of the people who lives as a cyberspace life form. Then after that revelation, we get an entire fight with Hikari versus Atlantis again. As the cyberspace crumbles, Hikari manages to escape them once again, leaving Lily behind, but later at the end, she contacts her with a final heartwarming message. My thoughts on the plot of both is I like the short story sci-fi structure of it, like how we are just thrown into the world and you have to try and put the pieces together of how things might work as it goes on, but I prefer the pacing of Cold Body, Warm Heart. Fantastic Cat has a slower pacing at the start. It's not that drastic, but it wants to take time to establish Hikari and Lily as friends, a mess chasing the cat around. At first, I just watched Fantastic Cat, but having seen the prequel to it, it helped add a lot of context to who Hikari, Mari, and Romeo are. Also Atlantis and Hikari's father. The plot is okay, even though I was confused on first watch. I wanted to know why Atlantis was evil in the first place, but they don't really go into that. The most you get is the implication that Hikari's father is involved, and he's bad, I guess. Also, they created cyberspace and cyberspace life forms, but that's about it. The characters are alright as well. I like Lily the most and how she goes from being lonely and borderline doomer, having a sort of disdain for her mundane life, to bonding with and appreciating Hikari as a friend thanks to the cat, all culminating to her not wanting to disappear because she finally made a friend. The music of both is fantastic, pun intended, and I like the use of piano and techno in the tracks.
通信だわ。
お二人さんお元気してますか？
どちらだ？
ここのところの景気の影響で品薄や。でも警戒レベルも上がってんね。自分らの身ぐらい守れるようにしとかんとな。
あまりお金使いすぎないでね。
そこは問題ありません。ワイの作った携帯ゲーム大ヒットしたんやで。まあ言うたら自給自足やな。今度遊んでみて。
今のうちに猫を助けて。
マジ？やった！
great. Hikari is voiced by Miyuki Sawashiro, who has voiced an insane number of characters I recognize and more. Lily's voice actor is Emiri Kato, who also voiced a ton of characters, on top of also doing a lot of animated related song performances. Both of them are just really talented VAs that do a great job even if the direction here wasn't all that demanding. The art style uses what's called Ben-Day dots, which is the comic or manga like dot pattern you see used a lot, and it gives the art style this colored manga look that I really like, along with its use of colors and shading in general. Makes it so visually appealing to me. The character designs though are pretty bland for Hikari and Lily, just standard black hair anime girls, but still cute. Romeo's design is good, and Mari being a bunch of computers in a ship is alright, but the Atlantis ships and robot designs are the ones I like the most, along with the cat itself. For the animation, it likes to use this trick of cutting away and back to hide certain movement, or not really done a lot, but reusing certain scenes. So its actual animation may not be all that impressive, and the story is pretty simple, with certain things not being all that clear upon first viewing, but its style and mood is the strongest part about it. I would say I like the animation and that it works with its limitations better than A.L.I.CE did, but I have mixed feelings about this anime overall. I was confused when I watched both for the first time, though I think it had to do with the pacing and the lack of understanding how certain things work in the universe. But what I liked most about it is Hikari and Lily's dynamic and its art style, so it's not really bad, but it's not something I would strongly feel in giving a full recommend seal of approval to. It's just a decent, okayish anime that I will give it just 5 totally not suspicious, well-intentioned cats out of 10.
君はドールではない。
やめてよ。何度も会ったことがあるでしょ。
私が会ったのはドールのマリス、君ではない。
そんなこと言わないでよ。
そういう反応をする機械者はいない。
じゃあ、私は何なのよ。
私のメモリーの最も深いところにわずかに残っているデータが、そんな存在のことを記憶している。神々の姿だ。
神。
私たちを創造し、この世界を創造した神たちのことだ。
お客様のこと。
So, we reached the final entry of today, and it's a very special one. One I will say is what led me to searching for more CGI anime to cover, and I plan on covering it more extensively in the future. Malice Doll is a fully CGI 3-part OVA series, with OVA standing for original video animation made specifically for release in home video formats. It was released April 27th, 2001 to June 22, 2001, with a 30-minute runtime per episode, produced by Gaga Communications, who I mentioned earlier did A.L.I.CE, and created by Chiaki J. Konaka, who also did Lane and A.L.I.CE. It's a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk anime dealing with surrealism, erotica, and psychological horror.
아? 久しぶりに起きたんだね、マリスドール。
夢を見てたの。
そいつは夢なんかじゃないさ、マリス。それはただの記憶だ、遠い昔の。 気を悪くしたかいマリス。
そんなことない。だって私はドールなんだから。
今日も行くんだね、散歩に。
だってそれが私の仕事なんだもん。
客なんかどこにもいやしないのにかい。
じゃああなたは誰のためにお掃除しているの？
それは俺がリッカーだからさ。
一緒だね、私と。
そうだ、一緒だ。
It's about a girl named Malice, who is a whore robot, sex worker, who lives and roams around an abandoned scummy part of some city absent of humans. She is damaged and is told to go get repaired by a character named Joe Admin, who looks after the dolls. On her way to the repairs, a mysterious little ghost girl shows up and leads her to a room where she finds an unnatural looking creature that ends up sexually violating her.
あなたはリペアラー？そうじゃないわね。前に会った時はそんな姿じゃなかったわ。もっとも私のメモリーもおかしくなっているのかもしれない。あなたもマシ内どんなお仕事をしているの？私はドール。私は慰めてあげるのがお仕事。でももう慰めてあげる人がいない。だからお散歩をしているのよ、毎日。ねえ、見て。私故障しているみたい。おかしいの。だからリペアラーを探してたの。キスしてあげる。私にできることはそれだけ。そしたら一緒にリペアラーを探して。どうした？何をするの？それがあなたの機能。何をするの？私はあなたが嫌い。やめて。そんなことをしたら私壊れて。
After having a fun time with tentacles, she reawakens and slowly realizes that something is not right about her. Basically, she turned human somehow, yet isn't fully aware of it. But later on, she realizes she can gift this ability to her fellow machines by giving them a kiss. However, it turns out that it is a curse, and her former robot friends start going completely insane and mutating into Resident Evil tier bioweapons. this culminates into her realizing the horror she has caused and going back to the mysterious entity that gave her this curse, making a wish inside of the now dead creature to dream a different dream in order to undo the harm she caused. And lastly, everything is reverted to normal with our girl Malice now being an angelic being flying through the city. That's a basic summary of it, with me skipping details because Malice Doll is a lot deeper than I thought it would be, and unlike Fantastic Cat where it purposely leaves out context or background for certain things making it confusing, I feel it works so much better with Malice Doll. What I mean by that is things are left purposely open-ended or unexplained so that the viewer can put the pieces together themselves. It's done really well. Like for instance, we never know what really happened to the humans of this world. It's never truly explained, but with this mysterious creature whose creator is unknown that turns Malice into a human, we can speculate that this thing was like a backup to restart organic human life in case they did go extinct by turning machines into humans. I love stuff like that in a story, especially when it's used for world building, where you can put two and two together yourself to try and piece what might have happened without the story outright giving it to you through expository dialogue. Visual storytelling, if you will, leaving some unanswered questions but never really enough to make you feel completely in the dark. It's very hard to pull off, but this anime does it well. At the center of all of this, we have our two main characters, Malice Doll and Joe Admin. Malice is, like I said earlier, a prostitute who is only good for comforting and pleasure. She has a sort of android emotionless type of personality, like not completely robotic, just more so than an actual human. But when she's given the gift of humanity, she starts to show a more varied array of emotions that make her seem more human than before. She is also voiced by Yuki Yamada, who has a really nice voice to listen to. I should also mention there is a dub, surprisingly, but I don't really like it that much. It's not awful, I just prefer subs in most cases. Our secondary protag is Joe Admin, whose design I really love. He just looks so cool to me. He's very much an admin though, because he's in charge of the whole area, or at least tries to be. Personality wise, he's a very orderly, kind of strict character who later develops feelings for Malice. In a sense, he wants to better understand her while still in machine form. He is voiced by Daiki Nakamura, who also nails the role of sounding like an overprotective robo sugar daddy. The music of this anime is great with some operatic and electronica beats, but funnily enough, I really enjoy the moments where it's just quiet ambience, with only the voice of the characters and noises being able to be heard. It really adds to the dark ambience and atmosphere of the anime. Also, the ending theme, Fly Away by Ryoko Kashima, is gloomy and captures the feeling of this series, and it reminds me of Silent Hill for some reason.
夢を見せてあげるわ。私の名前はマリス。 ちは、ジョアドミ。ねえ。
ヘザーだったものよ。君はまるでマリスと同じになってしまった。
ええ、そうよ、ジョー。あなただって私たちみたいな体になれるのよ。キスさせて。
キスだって。
私のキスも甘いのよ。マリスと同じにしてみたくない？
どうしたことだ。アドミンである私がどうしてドールの。
Lastly, let's talk about the art style and animation. The art style of Malice Doll really aged well in my opinion for a 2001 fully 3D anime. Like, it looks way better than A.LI.CE, which was released a year prior by the same company. The style of locations and characters themselves has a griminess to it that adds to the horror cyberpunk aesthetic that they are going for. The character designs are solid and go for an early anime cyberpunk look, with the robot designs for Joe or Malice being my personal favorites. I do also prefer pink-haired Fifth Element Lilo Robo Malice over the human one, but human Malice ain't bad looking. The entire anime looks like an obscure early PS2 horror game cutscene, and I mean that in a good way. The cinematography is nice, but the actual animation can be robotic and stiff at times, no pun intended, mainly when the characters walk or are just standing still and talk. Even though I think it works in its favor and feels like a stylistic choice, I will knock it for that though. But for the most part, it's alright and feels like the animators understood their limitations and tried to use it to their best advantage. That is all I have to say about Malice Doll for now. It's my favorite 3D anime that is horny, depressing, horrific, and heartwarming, so I'm pretty biased and think it's one of the greatest, most underrated obscure anime out there. For the CG side, I don't think it's groundbreaking or a masterpiece. I just think it's good and had a lot of heart put into it, so yes, I would recommend if you haven't seen it, watch it. I'll give Malice Doll a 9 human converting tentacles out of 10. So that's all the mini reviews of 3D and anime I've got for you today. I plan on talking about more, including a possible solo video on Malice Doll one day, but to cut to the chase, I would recommend watching Funny Pets, Sega Heart Girls, and Malice Doll the most out of this video if you haven't seen them already. This video took a lot of time to make because I'm not good at scripting, but I will continue to work hard to improve. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.